My boyfriend said he needed a break from us and came back wearing a necklace his ex had gifted him. When I asked, he said, "You wouldn't understand." I replied, "You're right." While he was out celebrating with his friends, I ended the lease he'd been living under with me. When his ex found out what name was on the paperwork, her reaction said everything. I'm 36, and I thought I had this relationship thing figured out. We'd been together for 3 years, living together for the last 18 months in my apartment. Well, technically, it was just my name on everything, but I considered it ours. He moved in after his previous place had some mold issues, and honestly, it felt natural. We fell into this comfortable rhythm where I handled the lease, utilities, and most of the bills while he contributed to groceries and other household stuff. It wasn't a big deal to me. I made decent money, and he was working on building his career. We were a team, or so I thought. Things started shifting about 2 months ago. He became distant, spent more time on his phone, and had this faraway look during conversations. When I asked what was wrong, he'd smile and say he was just stressed about work. I believed him because I wanted to. That's the thing about trust. You don't question it until it's already broken. Then came the conversation that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening. I remember because I'd picked up his favorite takeout on the way home, trying to cheer him up. He was sitting on the couch, staring at his phone, and barely looked up when I walked in. "Hey, I got that noodle place you love," I said, setting the bags on the coffee table. He put his phone down slowly. "We need to talk." Those 4 words. I felt my stomach drop, but I sat down next to him, trying to keep my voice steady. "Okay, what's going on?" "I think I need a break," he said, not meeting my eyes. "From us. Just some time to figure things out." "Figure what out?" I asked. "If there's a problem, we can work through it together." He shook his head. "It's not that simple. I just need space to clear my head. I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I need to be alone for a bit." "How long is a bit?" I asked, trying to process what was happening. "I don't know, maybe 2 weeks. I'll stay at my friend's place." I wanted to argue, to demand answers, but something in his tone told me pushing wouldn't help. "If that's what you need," I said quietly, "but we should talk about this more when you're ready." He left the next morning with a suitcase. I helped him carry it to his car, and he kissed my cheek before driving away. It felt wrong, mechanical, like he was already gone in every way that mattered. The first week was hell. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a text that never came. He'd occasionally respond to my messages with short, vague replies. "I'm okay, just need more time." I threw myself into work, went to the gym more, anything to keep my mind occupied. Then, exactly 12 days later, he texted asking if he could come by to pick up some more clothes. I said yes, told him I'd be home that evening. When I opened the door, the first thing I noticed was the necklace. It was this distinctive piece, a silver chain with a small pendant that had an intricate design. I recognized it immediately because he'd shown me a photo of it years ago, mentioning it was from his ex-girlfriend. He'd said he'd gotten rid of it when they broke up because it reminded him of bad times. He walked past me into the bedroom, and I just stood there staring. "Nice necklace," I said when he came back out with a bag of clothes. His hand went to it instinctively, protectively. "Thanks." "Isn't that the one from your ex?" I asked, keeping my voice level. He froze for a second, then recovered. "Yeah, I found it while organizing my stuff at my friend's place. Figured I might as well wear it. It's just jewelry." "Just jewelry," I repeated. "The jewelry you said you threw away because it reminded you of someone who treated you badly." "It's complicated," he said, his tone defensive. "You wouldn't understand." Those words hit me like a slap. "You're right," I said calmly. "I wouldn't understand why someone on a break from their girlfriend would suddenly start wearing a gift from their ex." "It's not like that," he said quickly. "You're making this into something it's not." "Then explain it to me," I said. "Because from where I'm standing, this break is looking less like self-reflection and more like something else entirely." He grabbed his bag. "I don't have to explain myself to you right now. That's the whole point of a break." He left, and I stood in my apartment feeling like an idiot. But here's the thing. Hurt makes you see clearly sometimes. I pulled out my laptop and started going through our shared phone plan bills, something I'd been paying for both of us. The call logs were interesting. There was one number he'd been calling and texting constantly over the past 2 weeks. I didn't recognize it, but a quick reverse lookup told me everything I needed to know. It was his ex-girlfriend's new number. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying every conversation, every excuse, every lie. By morning, I'd made my decision. If he wanted space, he'd get it, all of it. Update 1. I gave it 3 more days. He posted on social media, on an account he thought I'd muted, about having the best night with amazing friends at some upscale bar downtown. He was wearing that necklace in every photo, laughing, looking happier than he'd looked with me in months. The comments were filled with his friends hyping him up. You deserve this. Living your best life. While he was out living his best life, I was meeting with my landlord. The lease was up for renewal in a month, and I'd been putting it off. I sat down with him at his office that Friday afternoon. So, you renewing? He asked, paperwork ready. I am, I said. But there's been a change. It's just going to be me on the lease this time. My boyfriend is moving out. He nodded, not really caring about the details. We went through the paperwork. I signed everything, and that was that. The apartment was mine, solely mine, with no legal obligation to anyone else. That evening, he texted me. Can we talk this weekend? I think I'm ready. Sure, I replied. How about tomorrow afternoon at the apartment? He agreed. I spent that night packing his things. Everything of his. Clothes, toiletries, books. That ridiculous collection of scented candles he'd accumulated went into boxes. I was methodical about it, almost therapeutic. Each item I packed was another piece of my anger being channeled into something productive. He showed up Saturday at 2, still wearing that necklace. Hey, he said, walking in like he owned the place. I've been thinking a lot, and He stopped when he saw the boxes. What's this? He asked, his voice small. Your things, I said calmly. You said you needed space. I'm giving it to you, all of it. Wait, what? He said. I thought we were going to talk. We are, I interrupted, about how you've been calling your ex every day during our break, about how you're wearing her jewelry and posting pictures like you're celebrating being free of me. His face went pale. You went through my phone? Phone bill, I corrected. The one I pay for, and before you try to explain, save it. I'm done. You can't just kick me out, he said, his voice rising. I live here. No, I said, pulling out the new lease from the folder on the counter. You lived here, past tense. The new lease is just in my name. You have no legal right to this apartment. You need to collect your things and find somewhere else to stay. He stared at the document like it might bite him. This is insane. You can't do this. I can, and I did. You wanted a break to figure things out. Congratulations. You figured it out. You're not choosing me, so I'm choosing me. Where am I supposed to go? He asked, and now there were tears. Your friend's place seemed to work fine for you, I said. Or maybe your ex has room. Honestly, that's not my problem anymore. He grabbed his phone, fingers shaking as he typed. I watched him call someone, and when they answered, I heard a female voice. Hey, can I come over like now? I need help moving some stuff, he said into the phone. His eyes were on me, probably hoping I'd break. Tell him I was kidding. I started loading boxes by the door. 30 minutes later, his ex showed up. I recognized her from old photos he'd shown me early in our relationship. She was taller than I expected, with this confident stride that probably worked on him. She walked in and immediately looked around like she was sizing up the place. So, you're the woman, she said. And you're the reason he needed a break, I replied. His stuff is by the door. Take it. She looked at him, then at the boxes, then at the lease document I'd left visible on the counter. I watched her face change as she picked it up and read it. Wait, his name's not on this? She asked. Never was on the new lease, I said. This is my apartment, always has been. Her expression shifted to something between panic and anger. She turned to him. You told me you were on the lease. You said when we got back together, I could move in here because it was partly yours. The room went dead silent. Update 2. He tried to speak, but she cut him off. You told me you had equity here, that breaking up with her meant we'd have a place ready to go. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. So that's what this was about. He told you he had a claim to my apartment, I said. She was still holding the lease, looking between him and me. He said you two owned it together, that his name was on the paperwork. His name isn't on anything, I said. Not the lease, not the utilities, nothing. He's been living here rent-free, basically as a guest. The look on her face was priceless, pure betrayal. You lied to me, she said to him. I didn't lie, he stammered. I thought she'd put my name on it eventually. We talked about it. Talking about it and actually doing it are two different things, I interrupted. And I never promised anything. You moved in temporarily, and it just continued, that's all. She dropped the lease on the counter. So you dragged me back into this mess for what? For nothing? It's not nothing, he shouted. We love each other. You love the idea of having a place to live, she shot back. Just like before. That's why we broke up the first time, remember? You were using me for my apartment until someone better came along. This was getting better than I could have imagined. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching it unfold. That's not fair, he said, crying. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We can find our own place. With what money? She asked. I'm barely covering my own rent. I thought we were moving into your place here. That was the whole plan. He looked at me then, desperation in his eyes. Can we please talk about this? Just you and me. Maybe we can work something out. No, I said simply. Pack your things and go. Both of you. She was already heading for the door. I'm out. Don't call me. Wait, he called after her, but she was gone. He turned back to me, makeup smudged, eyes red. Please. I messed up. I know I did, but 3 years should count for something. You can't just throw me out like this. You threw us out when you decided to reconnect with your ex, I said. You just didn't think there'd be consequences. You thought you'd have me as a backup, this apartment as a safety net, but I'm not your safety net anymore. I don't have anywhere to go tonight, he whispered. You have friends you were celebrating with, I reminded him. I'm sure one of them has a couch. Now please take your things and leave. I've changed the locks. The new keys are only mine. He looked around the apartment one last time, like he was searching for something to say that would change everything. But there was nothing left to say. He grabbed what he could carry and left the rest, slamming the door behind him. I sat down on my couch in the sudden silence. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness, from relief, from finally taking control of something that had been spiraling for too long. My phone buzzed constantly over the next hour. His friends, the ones who'd been commenting on his best life posts, were suddenly in my messages. How could you kick him out? He has nowhere to go. You're heartless. I blocked them all. Then I blocked him. Update 3. The next week was weird. I'd catch myself expecting to hear him come through the door, or I'd see something that reminded me of him. But mostly I felt lighter. The apartment was mine again. Not just legally, but in every sense. I heard through a mutual friend, one who stayed neutral, what happened after. Apparently he crashed on his friend's couch, but it only lasted 2 nights before the friend's girlfriend said he needed to find somewhere else. He tried reconciling with his ex, but she blocked him on everything. The mutual friend said he'd moved back in with his parents 2 hours away. His social media went dark for a while, then came back with vague posts about learning who your real friends are and growth through adversity. No more photos of nights out. No more jewelry from exes. Just inspirational quotes and selfies from his childhood bedroom. Part of me felt bad. Not for what I did, but for what he threw away. We'd had something real. Or at least I thought we did. But he torched it for a fantasy that collapsed the moment reality showed up. About 3 weeks after everything went down, I got an email from him. He must have created a new address since I'd blocked everything else. The subject line was, I'm sorry. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. I read it twice, then moved it to trash. Some apologies come too late. Some damage can't be undone with words. Final update. It's been 2 months now. I renewed my gym membership, started taking cooking classes, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for, and reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the relationship. The apartment feels like mine in a way it never did when he was here. I rearranged the furniture, painted the bedroom a different color, got rid of things that reminded me of him. It's not about erasing his existence. It's about reclaiming my space. I ran into his ex randomly at a coffee shop last week. She saw me, nodded awkwardly, and we ended up talking for a minute outside. Look, she said, I know how that whole thing went down was messy. For what it's worth, he played both of us. Yeah, I agreed. He did. You dodged a bullet getting out when you did. She sighed. I dated him for 2 years before. Same patterns, different girlfriend. We left it at that. No hard feelings between us. We were both just collateral damage in his inability to figure out what he wanted. As for him, last I heard, he's still at his parents' place working remotely. The mutual friend said he's been talking about moving to a different city for a fresh start. I wished him well mentally, but I'm not invested in his story anymore. I learned something through all this. You can't build a life with someone who's always looking over their shoulder for something better. Trust isn't just about fidelity. It's about commitment, honesty, and showing up even when things aren't exciting. He couldn't do that, and I'm better off knowing it now than wasting more years. The necklace, by the way, the one that started it all, apparently he pawned it. Guess it wasn't that sentimental after all. Just a prop in whatever narrative he was trying to write for himself. Edit 1. Some people asked about the legal side. Yes, I checked with a tenant lawyer before doing any of this. Since his name wasn't on the lease and he wasn't paying rent, he was legally considered a guest, not a tenant. I gave him reasonable time to collect his belongings, and I documented everything. I wasn't trying to be cruel, I was protecting myself. Edit 2. To those saying I should have fought for the relationship, I appreciate the perspective. But fighting for someone who's already checked out is just delaying the inevitable. He made his choice when he reconnected with his ex. I just made mine when I found out. Edit 3. Someone asked if I'd take him back if he tried harder to apologize. Honestly, no. It's not about the apology. It's about the fact that he was willing to risk everything we built for a maybe with someone else. That tells me everything I need to know about how he valued us.